Hello, April Cox here. And today we're going to get into analyzing and adjusting Amazon ads. And I've put together a handout for those of you that are participating with me. I will also put a link in the description online once this is posted. I'm going to walk you through the step-by-step process that I use on a weekly basis and talk overall about the things you need to know in order to be successful with your Amazon ads. Coming up right after this. So before you advertise, I want you to realize that there are some things that have to be in place in order for your ads to be effective. And I have a whole video on this. I'll refer to it in the notes on this video later, but you have to have your cover. It has to be really designed well. If your cover's not designed well, you're not going to get clicks. You have to have a good hook and description and call to action on your listing. I don't say you have to have, but you should have A+ content. And that's the visual content that can be put at the bottom of your page. So that's one thing that you should also have. Highly relevant keywords and categories. Those things are very important when you're setting up your listing. And then also competitive pricing. If your book is, $17 where everybody else's is $12, no matter how many ads you pay for, it's not going to help sell your book, right? So these things need to be taken into consideration before you go full blown. Oh, and I should have also added, and I'll add it in here, reviews. So social proof is important as well. Having, 10 or more reviews is wonderful. 50 or more is even better. So if you've knocked it out of the park, like some of my latest authors launching your book, you're going to be in really great shape to turn on those ads. Okay. The type of ads we're going to focus on today is automatic ads. Automatic ads are those where it's very simple. It's a very simplest ad that you can get. And it just says, Amazon, you know me. The buyers, just put my book out there in front of people you think might be interested in it. And Amazon just plays around and does that. Why would you want to do an ad like that? Well, if you've got a brand new book and you're not quite sure who to target, it's probably a really good thing to just turn on automatic ads, because you'll see all of the types of things that are converting. And you'll see Amazon puts things, lots of different terms are out there, and Amazon will serve it up in different ways and to try to discover what's going to work well for you. So you can use an automatic ad as a way to discover what works and what doesn't for your book. There's also manual product and category ads. I typically use these when I'm launching. Let's just talk about launches in general, but you can also apply the same things I'm saying to your books that are already out there and launched. If you've got a book that's launching and you've already done your competitive research, you've got a handful of books or a dozen books that are like your book or are competitors in your sub-niche, then target those books, right? Get your books in front of or let others see your books that are looking at or looking for those competitor books. So that is where I would typically do a manual product. And then I put the word category there as well, because those product ads also allow you to add a category. So, for example, we just launched Baby Dragon's Big Sneeze, and the category is dragon books, right? It's dragons and unicorns or something. They wrap that up. So we target that because I want her books. If somebody's in that category searching or looking at dragon books or unicorn books, I want our ad to be shown to them. So some categories are really niche, and so it makes for a very targeted audience. Others, like emotions and feelings, are really broad. So sometimes that's maybe won't perform as well. So, but you won't know unless you try. So I typically try 2 or 3 categories and maybe a dozen books that I know are those that are competitors especially those that you would love to show up for. These books are frequently purchased together, previously referred to as also bots, right? If you've got a handful of those, for example, when I listed Rachel Hills's Christmas books, we picked things like How to Catch an Elf and some popular Christmas books that we targeted really heavy for a period of time. And now when people go and look at her Christmas book, it's showing frequently bought with, and her book is showing up as other people are buying those other items. So again, great way of getting your book in front of people who are already looking for popular books. Next is manual keyword ads. So there are lots of things. And if you have done a really good job learning about your target audience, then you probably know the kinds of things that they search for. Bobby Hinman, for example, we have best fairy books. She's got a book of fairy, fart fairy, sock fairy, all kinds of fairies. And the typical, searching for children's books for 4-year-old girl, children's books about fairies, right? There are things that you can kind of guess that these are things that we want to make sure when somebody searches for those things that Bobby's book comes up for. So manual keyword ads, I have a whole other collection of videos talking about finding great keywords, getting in the right categories. We're not going to touch on that here. I will send links out, though, when I comment on the replay, and in the description below, I will make sure to give you some other ones you can follow up on if you're looking to figure out how to get those keywords. For now, I just want to say those are some ads that we do focus on. Brand ads are those that appear on the top of Amazon. You probably, when you have searched on something, you'll see like there's 3 books across the top. It's usually right at the top of the page, and it just elevates the branding around things. I've got a number of brand ads running for Bobby, for her fairy books, and for her how-to books that she has written. And so the benefit of a brand ad is, first of all, you can't run a brand ad unless you have at least 3 books to run that you want to be able to show together. But the benefit is people are going to get more familiar with your brand. It appears at the top, and some of them perform really, really well. It's just another type of ad to check out. And then today, I'm also going to talk a little bit about video ads. It's a new opportunity that I've been playing around with for some of my authors. And oh my goodness, in a place where ads are really expensive right now around Christmas, I've been seeing ACOS of 15%, 20%, and I've stretched some of the keyword bids so that some of them are like 35% or 50%. But overall, these are the best performing ads that I've seen for this whole Christmas season. So if you are not doing anything with video ads, it is a little bit more difficult to get them to run video ads because, number one, most authors can't run them by themselves. If you don't have an Advantage account or you don't have the type of vendor account that allows you to run them, then you need to work with somebody like myself or like Books Go Social that can run those kinds of ads for you. Number two, the ads themselves, like to have a really engaging video is, you've got to pay somebody to help you create one, or you need to be good with iMovie or something like that to create your own video. That's more like a little trailer. And Amazon has certain specifications that if your ad or your video doesn't meet those specifications, they'll keep rejecting it. So because all of those hoops you have to jump through, my theory is that there's a lot less people doing it. And so there's a lot less competition. And I don't know about you, but when I go onto Amazon and I see those beautiful videos, they always catch my attention. Something about moving and the focus and where they're placed on the page really catches my attention. So those are kind of the overview stuff that I wanted to touch on. So what to expect? It takes time to get things dialed in. it might be a couple of months before you've got your ads really churning. You can anticipate things being very expensive leading into Christmas and then adds the Christmas season. And it takes by like mid to end of January before the bids come back down to reasonable. I feel like a lot of that's because people forget the ads, or they don't look at them, or they don't manage it, and they've got these really high bids before they actually go back in and lower their bids again. So it can take a little bit of time. So if you're brand new and you haven't done any ads yet, I would really focus right now on getting your listing, your cover, the reviews, getting everything ready, A+ content, get all that ready so that by mid-January, you can jump in and start getting the benefit of some of those Amazon ads. So you'll also have terms that convert well and some that won't. And there's no rhyme or reason for it. It is going to take time to be able to test those things out. And I will show you how I do it and what things, some tricks that I've learned along the way. But a lot of times it is trial and error. You're going to get better the more you work on it, the more you practice. And every year, now let's just say this year, I've run so many ads on Christmas books for Bobby, Rachel, and a couple of other people that I am going to have a list of Christmas terms that just do really well for Christmas books. So I'm going to put that aside and be ready for next year. So learning takes time, but I can also take all that learning for next Christmas, and I can get started there. Yes, there are going to be some new terms that come up because there'll be new Christmas books released, or maybe a new trend or something. Nobody could predict some of the huge trends that come in from year to year, but we'll have, 90% of our terms and everything all ready to go for Christmas. So that can be a huge plus. How do you know if your ads are working? So you're going to see orders in your ad dashboard. I'm going to show you this when I actually go into my ad dashboard. But the problem with Amazon ads is you'll see your ad dashboard and it might say 10 orders, and you've paid a certain amount for those 10 orders. What it doesn't really show you is that your ads also impact your organic sales. You will see a lift in your organic sales. You will also see, if you are doing as I recommend and not only publishing on KDP, but you publish on Ingram Spark as well, then your hardcover sales, which might go off to Ingram Spark's print on demand, will not show up in the Amazon ad dashboard. So sometimes you can look at your ad dashboard and go, this is horrible. I'm not doing well at all. But when we back up and we actually take a look at the sales plus, from KDP, the royalties from KDP plus the royalties from Ingram Spark, or if you're on Seller Central, take those royalties, put all of the royalties you're getting in one place, and then minus your ad spend. That's your profitability for the month. It's not like you can press a button and generate that report. I wish you could, but you can connect those things into a spreadsheet, and monthly, just see, are you getting better? Is your profitability going up? And you'll have an opportunity to know whether you need to pull back on ads or continue to maybe ramp up on what you're doing for ads if it's really working. But it's really easy to think that your ads are not working if you're only looking at the small picture of what you see in the Amazon ad dashboard. So improved profitability will help you know that you're doing the right stuff. And also your ACOS, I'll stop for a second and say ACOS is just an acronym that means advertising cost of sales. It means if I pay $20 and I get $40 worth of sales, it takes the two and it says, okay, your ACOS is 50%. So you paid 50% of what the sales were for your orders. So my ACOS of 50% is maybe not that attractive, but if that turns into 25% or 50% of $3,000 ad spend ends up being $6,000 worth of sales, I'll take that every day, right? So volume helps as well. And we'll talk a little bit about budget and how to set a budget for that. I'm going to talk a little bit about getting started and just encourage you to learn about Amazon ads. I have a whole playlist on my YouTube channel where you can go in and just absorb and learn more about it. And earlier, before everybody joined, Pat said that she listens to that and she again and again. And sometimes when you're first learning something new, it takes a while to get like certain terms to click or certain things that you didn't hear the first time through something. And then all of a sudden it clicks and it makes sense. So study Amazon ads. Don't be afraid to join one of those challenges or go through a course or something. The more you learn, the more you study, the more you try different things, the better you're going to get. There is also an area where you can set up text alerts so that you can be notified if your budget runs out. So I know, especially this holiday season, Rachel was having a lot of trouble because the person, before I took the ads and started managing them, the other person that was running her ads would keep letting the budget run out. And so when the budget runs out, it just pauses the ads. So when she's making so many sales a day and then 3 or 4 days goes with no ads, it just dramatically drops the orders. So I would recommend going in and setting up text alerts on your ads so that even if you're not in there on a regular basis, you get notified when you're out of budget. And I'll go through more of that when we get inside the dashboard. I also recommend that you set up recurring reports so that you don't lose your data. And I'll also show you this as you run your ads, the data about how they're performing, what search terms people clicked on, all of that data is there for you to analyze and to look at later, but it expires and it goes away unless you grab it and run a report and pull that data out. So there's a way that you can just set it up so that every month, like the second week of the month, it runs the reports for the previous month. And then you'll have all that history to go back to. So it's a great opportunity so that, like for me, when I'm ready to run next year's Christmas stuff, if I hadn't run any reports or didn't extract that data, I've lost everything from this Christmas and all the lessons that were there. Number 4, determine your goals. And then that's what's going to determine your approach. So let's talk a little bit about the reasons people might run ads. Brand recognition is one of them. I'll give you an example. One of my authors, Cheryl De Vega, has been really prolific, and releasing a number of books. Her brand is Biff Bambuza Books. And right now she's very unknown, right? So she wants to run ads so that all of these new Biff Bambuza books are out there so people can see them and they get to recognize her brand. Now, brand recognition, publicity around your brand and what you're doing, you can spend thousands of dollars in marketing on that, right? With publicity firms and everything else. Well, if somebody says, I can break even on Amazon ads with just ads to get my word out, I'm not even caring if I get orders. I'm just wanting people to see my books and see the brand. So the goal is a little different, and I'm okay with less of an ACOS if it's all about just getting people to know my books versus if it's, you're trying to sell books and be profitable, right? Which is the second bullet point here. Some of us, it's more about just making sure your book is out there so that you can get clicks and that you can get sales. The third one here, which I don't think enough people really think about, is getting indexed for certain keywords. So when we're just releasing a new book, let's just say social emotional learning is the topic of one of your books. It's about empathy. It's about friendship. It's all of this stuff. And yes, you've probably got social emotional learning on your keyword, but when somebody types in social emotional learning on Amazon search, does your book come up? Probably not. It's probably way, many, many pages in, because these other books that are indexed for that and that, are ranking on page 1 for that term are pushing your book way down. Okay. So you can use Amazon ads to get more traffic. You can say, I'm going to bid on this term, this keyword term, social emotional learning for kids ages 4 to 8. There's a number of different derivations of that word, and you can pay for those clicks. And if your clicks turn into views of your page and orders, Amazon says, oh, this is highly relevant to this book. I get that. More clicks, social emotional learning. Your book starts getting associated with that. And your book's ranking for that term starts to climb. And over time, you're on the first page with some of these others that have been selling for that term for a while. And it takes time. And there are ways you can track your index for that word. Where are you? You ranked 180 or you ranked number 5 or number 1. So there's a lot of things you can do using ads to help you rank for certain popular keywords that you really want to rank for. And then I also mentioned the impact of your frequently bought together. That's another, as you are saying, I want to be positioned with this book, this book, this book, this book, and you target those products, those ASINs are put into an ad. And then when people are looking at those books or searching for those books, your ad can be served up. And if they end up purchasing yours and purchasing the other, your book starts showing up in the frequently bought together, which helps drive more sales as well, because all of those other books that show your book has been frequently bought with it can also end up with additional sales through that channel. And that's another reason why your organic sales goes up too, because frequently bought together doesn't count as an ad. You don't pay for that. So if somebody clicks off of that and buys your book, that's going to count as an organic sale, even though it was completely dependent on your ads in building that connection between those two books. So determine your ad budget based on your goals. I had one author I interviewed mentioned that when he launched his book, he put aside $2,000 and said, that's my ad budget. I'm going to launch my book, spend the $2,000. And when he was finished, he went really heavy, really bid heavily on terms that he wanted. And he kind of just zapped all of these goals. He went full speed ahead on all of them. And then once he was indexed for the terms and he had sold and he had lots of reviews and everything else was moving, he found that he could stop his ads, and the organic sales and all of the word of mouth that was happening from all those sales continued to keep the book running and selling. And that, $2,000 was his budget. I've worked with other authors who said, I'm really on a tight budget. I want to start with $100 a month of an ad budget. And you get to decide what your budget is. You can set it up for a daily spend, a monthly spend. I've heard people say, if you can start with $5 a day as a budget, that's wonderful. It takes time for Amazon to even spend that budget. Sometimes you'll put $5 a day and they don't even, it takes time for them to start serving up the impressions and for you to start getting clicks. So don't feel like, I'm going to spend $5 times 30 days. That's a lot of money to spend on my book. It takes time for that to pick up. And when you are focusing on Amazon ads, you really should take time to think about mark this as if this is truly your marketing budget, some of the advice I've heard from other marketing professionals is take what you spent on your book to create it. And if you make that your marketing budget, you're in a really good shape. Now, I know some children's book authors spend $20,000 to produce their books. I'm not saying that $20,000 for marketing would be appropriate, but $500 over a year is probably not going to give you the kind of results that you're looking for. Block time to monitor and manage ads weekly. And so that's where I'm going to go through and I'm going to walk you through what I do right after this next section. I want to talk to you about just some FYI before I get into the step-by-steps of what I do. So ad spend is taken out of your account monthly. It gets taken out as it happens. So, however, your royalties don't get paid for 3 months. So you're going to have that gap there, right? So you got to plan for having a few months worth of money coming back. It's one thing to look at your ad dashboard and say, wow, I made $2,000 in sales and it cost me $300. That's wonderful. But that $300 is coming out right away. And that $2,000, you got to wait 3 months for. So just have a credit card or something that can get you through that first few months, and then you're going to start seeing the royalties start rolling in. More ads are not necessarily better. It can be overwhelming to manage. And I find that true, like with some of Bobby's ads. We've been working together for so long, and there's so many books and there's so many ads, and I've been trying to start dwindling down and combining things so that it doesn't have to take quite so long to manage. There are times when you're going to put an ad and it's going to do nothing. You won't even get one impression. And this can happen for any number of reasons, but when that happens, don't stress over it. Just turn the ad off and just try again with a different ad. Sometimes they're just duds, okay? Ads also have a life cycle. You will see things will build with impressions and you'll see things moving up and up and up and up and up. And then over time, it starts to go back down. And so there's a life cycle. An ad that's working well isn't going to be there forever. So you'll need to, as one ad starts petering out, you're going to want to start creating other ads that can fill it and take its place. Take those lessons learned from that one and incorporate it into others. Not checking on ads regularly can end up in a big expense. I think Pat shared about that she went in to take a peek and she's like, uh-oh, I haven't looked at these in a while and I'm spending too much money, right? Because if they're not actively managed, they can get out of control and all of a sudden you're looking at your credit card going, oh my gosh, where did all these charges come from? And, you look at it and it hasn't been out there for very long and the charges are in. If you're not actively managing it, you're not going to necessarily be doing very well with the ads. It does take active managing in order to get the very best performance. You can organize your ads into portfolios. Let's talk about Rachel Hills. So she has some Christmas books. So those Christmas books we'll put in one portfolio and go full speed ahead during Christmas time. Her other books she's got a Wee Bit Sticky series and couple of other series that we might just put them together or we might separate them out and just put slots of money or portfolios together where we say, okay, $200 a month for this, $100 a month for this one, $500, $1,000, $2,000 a month. So those kinds of things, you are able to use portfolios you don't have to have an all or nothing. You can have them separated out and schedule your spending around different portfolios. In addition to your daily ad budgets, you can cap spending at the portfolio level as well. So it's another stopgap so that you don't overspend. It'll control if there's runaway spending, especially if you're not checking on your ads regularly, then it's good to have that portfolio cap on your spending. And then finally, Amazon is always changing things. So whatever we go over today may not work tomorrow. And tomorrow there might be a new feature that we haven't checked on. So it's always good to try things and just keep your ears open and keep learning, because Amazon ads do keep changing, as does the Amazon algorithm. Sometimes we know about it and sometimes we don't. It's, we find out way after the fact that something that worked fine before is no longer working. And we have to make some changes and do some slightly different tactics in order to get the same results as we did before. If this has been helpful for you, then take a moment to smash that like button and write a comment and let me know where your biggest challenges are on Amazon ads. Now, let's get back to the show. This is the Amazon dashboard. So for those of you who have not been a part of using Amazon ads, if you log into your KDP, there's a marketing tab over here, and Amazon ads is right here. You can choose whichever. I usually do US because that's the biggest marketplace, but you have options of doing others as well. And then click Go to Ads Console. So this will be where they'll plop you in. Now, I don't use this one because I have an Advantage account where I do my ads. But it's the same thing. You'll end up here. I have a different kind of account. All right. I wanted to show you this is my portfolio over time. I put lifetime over here. I was actively managing ads for a while here for another author who's just does amazingly well with her books. And you can see over this period of time, $159,000 spent on ads and $636,000 in sales. The ACOS over time is just crazy. 25%, 18,000 orders. Like, this is the kind of thing when people start moving forward and really are able to pull things together. It's pretty amazing what ads can do for you. Let me go in. I'll do Rachel. So when I look at Rachel here, I see a 37% ACOS. I've got $3,400 in sales, $1,200 in spending. Now, what I'm doing for Rachel is just her video ads. She has a separate account that she's managing some of her other ads. Now, this will be my weekly adjustment for her ads. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to look at the number. This is on the last page of the handout that I sent you. It's analyze and adjust campaigns. So I'm going to go through and do every step. So one of you asked, what does that look like? So it's from here to the end of this session. That is what I mean by going through and doing your ads. But before I jump into those step-by-steps, I just want to point out a couple things. Here is where you find portfolios. You can create a portfolio. I created a portfolio for Rachel 2022 video ads. And when I created the ads, I put it in that portfolio. So now I'm looking at the portfolio metrics up here. And these graph shows the performance based on the date range that's selected over here. So if I say lifetime, show me what we did for the lifetime of these that we've been running these, it will update based on that. If I say last 7 days, because sometimes I'm managing these ads weekly, that's what I've been doing for her. So if I want to see how are things going since last week when I came in here, then I can look at day by day. And this, you can see the color orange is on impressions. So these are the number of impressions. The color blue is on orders. So if I want to change that up and I want to say, show me spending instead and show me sales, the last two things you click on is what changes here. I like to look at impressions because that tells me how often is the ad being put out there and having an opportunity to actually be seen by someone. Okay. And impressions are going down because Christmas is starting to wane. We're getting close to Christmas. And also I started pulling back on the bid amount. So when you bid less, especially in this very competitive bidding season, you'll see less impressions. The opposite also is true. If other people start cranking up their bids, even though I haven't adjusted mine, you'll get less impressions. So this happens sometimes leading up to Christmas. So I like to do impressions and orders. So I'm just highlighting those two things. So here, I typically look at the last 30 days because I feel like that's a big enough. I love to see what's happening over time and how things have changed here. But also what I will do, so it says number 1, first step. Well, let me just talk about one thing. It says at the top of this handout, even if all you do is take this one page, it says, make sure your columns include impressions, clicks, spend, sales, orders. A lot of times when you come in here and if you haven't been doing this before, you have to customize your columns so that you have the impressions, clicks, cost per click, orders, sales, ACOS, right? So a lot of times those columns aren't here. So just if they're not, just come into here and make sure that you add them. So when you look at impressions, this is right here as well. Average numbers would be 1 click per 1,000 impressions. So how is Rachel doing? 97,000 impressions would typically, good performance would be 97 clicks. Her clicks on this one is 827. So she's doing really well there. Now, clicks to orders, good performance would be 82 orders, so 10%, 1 order for every 10 clicks. Or better. I mean, obviously we want better, but here she's got 115 orders. So this ad is doing really well. And as we scroll over, we see the ACOS of 37% is really good. So that's a really good ACOS. That's not all that I do, but I look at the overall things that are happening right now. And now we're going to go into drilling down into one of the ads. I usually start by ordering things based on spend. So I'm going to click here into the spend column, and I want the most money that's going out. I want to be able to see those ads first. There's a few things we need to make sure of. Number 1, we want to stop the bleeding on keywords that are not working. So I'm going to go into this ad because that's just money going out that is not going to help you with selling books. If it's not converting and you keep spending on that, then that's going to be a problem. So when I clicked on the ad, over here on the left side, we could look at campaign or we can look at history, but the word targeting isn't here. So if you don't see the word targeting here, then this ad requires you to dig in here first. It's the different types of ads. You'll see targeting on the first page, or you have to click and then go into it on the second page. So the word targeting is here. That's where I want to go. I want to go into the targeting for this ad. I'm going to just stretch the keyword so we can see, as you can see, a lot of terms on Christmas books. And I've, adjust some of them down because they weren't performing as well. I want to take a second here to show you that just because Amazon tells you that you need to have a range between $2 and $4.92, this is their suggested bid. If we would have just accepted Amazon's suggested bid when we set up this keyword, we would have been bidding $3 a piece. That's crazy. It's not going to give you a lot of profitability when you're spending $3 per click, right? Because you're not charged with Amazon when your book is shown, right? Your impression is put out there. But when somebody clicks on it, that's when you get charged. And this is your bid. So the bids are here. We've got the impressions. We've got the spend. We see the clicks. So just generally, just looking to see what do we think we're doing for this Christmas book. 55,000 impressions. I would guess it would give us 55 clicks. Do you see how much better, how well these video ads are performing? This is crazy. 456 clicks. That's really fantastic. And then when we move over to orders, we would say 10% would be 45 orders. So she's got 59 here. And this is just in the last 30 days for that one keyword, Christmas books. So we're doing really good with that. And the ACOS is good. So my bullet point here says, if you're not seeing average performance and you've got 10 clicks or more, then turn it down to 2 cents. So this one, we are seeing good performance. So we're going to go to this bullet point below that says, if your performance average, but it's greater than 50% ACOS, lower your bid. If your performance is excellent and ACOS is lower than 30%, or I'd say 35 is okay, raise the bid. What I'm going to do is, this is about where I want to be. This column here, cost per click, 59 cents. So we've been paying 59 cents per click to get this 35% ACOS. To me, that's perfect. So if I wanted to keep this going at that ACOS, I would want to make sure that this bid is continuing at 59 or higher. I'm going to put it at 62 cents because it's performing really well. I might as well give it a little bit more runway, but I don't want it to go a lot higher than this. So 62 cents is fine for me. If Rachel said to me, I want as many sales as possible, I want my book out there, then I might be more aggressive. I might throw extra money at this and say, I'll do 75 cents per click because we want it to be shown more. We want more impressions. And Rachel's okay with spending a little more money for it. But in this case, I want to keep things moving the way that they are. Now, I'm also going to jump over and show you guys something that happens with Ingram Spark. Many of you have worked with me for a while, and you know that I typically recommend starting with print on demand until you know that you have plenty of, that you're verifying that your book sells before you go out and start printing it in bulk, right? So when I look at Ingram Spark here, these hardcover sales are coming in typically from the ads. A good part of them are coming from the ads. So when I tell you that this dashboard showing the orders here doesn't tell the full picture, it's absolutely not counting all of these Ingram Spark sales. And if we look at her reports, there's new reports here on Ingram Spark. So as we look at, this is 1,106 sales in November for her books. This here is the last 30 days. So we have these 3 books are all being driven by some of the ads that I'm running on video ads. And all of these are resulting in sales. Rachel does not allow her book to be returned. So that usually means that she's not going to be getting a lot of orders from Barnes and Noble and other places like that for her books. So these orders are coming from people being driven to her ads on Amazon and deciding to purchase the hardcover instead of the paperback. And if these ads are driving those sales, then this is just telling a small part of the story about the profitability on these ads. So now, as I'm going through this here, I'm going down and adjusting things. And then once I start seeing, once you start getting to a very few clicks and things that don't have orders, there's not a lot of adjustment to do. Like if we're looking here, Christmas book with, right? I don't really have a lot of information. Do I raise it? Do I not? There's not really enough clicks to tell me whether or not it's going to convert. So I would be like, okay, can't really make a decision on those, but I can see that this one converted. Do I want to raise this up? Which I did, right? I raised it up here from 81 cents to $1.20. And then, but there's a certain point where you start seeing, okay, there's nothing I can do, right? So once I get there, I go, okay, let me just click on orders and sort it by orders. I just want to make sure all the ones that had orders that I've had a chance to look and make sure that all of my bids are adjusted the way that they should be. So this here's 13%, 81. Yep, that looks good. I'm looking at some of these others here. Everything's good. This is 5% ACOS, one click, one order, but only 20 impressions, right? So I wanted to give that a little bit more room. So that looks good. Keep going down here. We've got some good low ones. I want to make sure everything that has had an order has been looked at. And then the third and final thing I do before I get out of this is I go to the impressions. There's a number of, and I order it by impressions. Now there's a number of terms here that have no impressions at all. So no impressions can mean that there's not enough of a bid to be able to get impressions on those terms. So in this case, these are all at 96 cents. So I bumped them up last time I was in here and still no impressions. So I'm scrolling down here on this first one, and this whole first page has no impressions at all. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to click. There's this little on the top in the header, there's a checkbox. It kind of automatically checks off everything that's on this first page. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to just bump up these things on the first page because we're so close to Christmas. I'm just going to put it at $1.20, 96 to $1.20. I just want to see if anything is going to serve. I'm going to click adjust bid, and I'm going to bump it up just to see if I can salvage any last minute sales on these terms. Because I know this book is converting really well, I'm not worried about the $1.20, and I'll keep a close eye on it. So now I've done everything that I want to do. I stopped the bleeding. I found the ones that were converting well, which is me ordering it by orders. I sorted by these and bumped up the ones that have orders. And now I went in and looked at the impressions, and I tried to get some more impressions for things that were not working well. So the next thing that I do before going away from this ad is I'm going to come to search terms over here. This is targeting. This is search terms. This is Amazon showing you all the things that people searched for. You can see this first column, customer search term. And over here, you can see the keyword that we are targeting. Now, in a number of these, they're exactly the same. Reindeer books, Christmas books, funny Christmas books, the same. Over here, this one's slightly different. Christmas books for kids is different than Christmas book kids, right? But because it was probably the phrase that we targeted, this still ended up coming here, getting 22 clicks, 5 orders, converting at 19%. So I will make note that Christmas books for kids is a good converting keyword that I'll want to make sure I add to the list. Some of the ad types will have like a little checkbox in front where I could just check off Christmas book for kids over here, and it will allow me to just apply that keyword very easily. But this one is going to make me just copy it or export the page and get all of these really good keywords. So here, Christmas book exchange. We didn't target that term, but it converted really well. 14.09%, 3 clicks, 1 order. So we should add that because somebody else might be looking for a Christmas book exchange. Inappropriate Christmas book. Well, if we're looking at Santa's underpants or something like that, maybe that's a term that will actually convert well for Bobby. Well, here it's a 13.99% ACOS. So we did stop the bleeding. We did bump up the ones that are performing well. We did fix the ones that aren't getting any impressions. Now we come to search and we say, let's find new terms we didn't target. that are being searched for by our clients, our customers, and may add some additional keywords that we can account for. Make sense? So you can see all of these beautiful ACOSs. Look at this. Beautiful, colorful Christmas books for children. One click, one order. All of these, like these are really great keywords. Grumpy Santa book. We only targeted Santa book. Great keyword. So do you see how the more that I manage this ad and the more that I take these lessons learned from the search terms, the better and smarter my ad is going to become, because I'm adding new terms that are converting well. I'm shutting off the old ones that are not converting well. And I'm also doing my best to get some new impressions on things that haven't been serving. One thing I also wanted to show is that when you're here looking at this, remember I said when you first click in, if the word targeting isn't here, you have to click down here first. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to point out campaign settings are here. So this is where you'll see your budget, daily budget. This is where you'll see the portfolio that it's in. So I've set this up for a $300 a day budget. Amazon's not spending nearly that, but I want them to know we're serious. I don't have any specific end date. I have it in her portfolio. And when I take a look at Rachel's portfolio here, once you've created a portfolio, you've got ads in it, you also, on the far right over here, you'll see this modify portfolio. So I have a $2,000 budget cap through from November 23rd to December 31st. It'll keep me in the loop with when this, so I have $736 remaining. So I'll keep an eye on that when I'm going through and just making sure that the portfolios aren't running close to being where my target funding is. So those are some of the places. Now, if I go back here and I look at, this is her portfolio. I clicked on the portfolio. Here's all the ads that I have set up for her. Here's the $300 budget that was showing, right? $300 a day. If I want to see if, am I doing okay with the budget? I can just go to like yesterday and take a look at the spend. It's not spending anywhere near what I'm budgeting, as you can see. Even though we are, full speed ahead, I want Amazon to spend more money. Why? Because she's converting so well. So sometimes, we might copy ads and have multiple ads doing, the other thing that I might do is take all of the best keywords that are performing really well and move it into a new second generation ad. So I'll create a new campaign with those and see if I can get some of those best of the best into a whole new campaign. And maybe that I can get that working as the other ads might start to be tweetering, kind of losing their steam. So if I was budgeting, say $10 a day for this ad, and I see it wants to be spending 13, or say I budget 15 a day and it's at 13, it's spending, I might want to come in here and bump up the daily budget on the ad so that it doesn't keep stopping. But I don't have that issue because I've got plenty of ads here. And I did have one, to your point, Pat, that just wasn't performing. And I just came in here and I just turned it off. It just never took off. So I came in and where it says active, I just deactivated it here. And you can see it's not serving. It's not doing anything. I went through all of this and then it says, go on to your next campaign. So everything that I did that I just showed you for the keyword one, now I'm going to go in and we're just going to look at a couple of things here. This is a category one. So I'm going to change the date range here again to 30 days. All right. So this is category and product ad. And the word targeting's up here, so I don't have to click down here. So just if you look to the left and you don't see the word targeting, then click down here on the bottom. If you do see targeting, just go in. That'll just be a good, solid way to look for things. And here you'll see the ASINs that are targeted. And you also can see categories because I also targeted categories. I'll just do lifetime because I'll also order it by, okay, there's a spending. 30 days. Okay. I had the sort on lowest number of impressions. So that's why we didn't see anything come up when I first pulled it up. So $286 here we spent in the last 30 days on this one category, children's holiday books. So the same way we just looked at the keywords, you can come over here and you can see the clicks. Plenty, it's performing really well. We would expect 82 clicks. She's got 503 clicks to orders. I would have said, 10% would be 50. She's got 65 orders. And the ACOS of 35% is fantastic. No issue with this. It's got 57 cents cost per click. Because we are so close to Christmas being over, I'll bump it up a little bit more, maybe do 68 cents and let that go. Now, let's look at this ASIN over here that has an 85% ACOS. That's high. It's got 14 clicks, one order, but the clicks are expensive. So even though, 14 to 1 isn't terrible, they're expensive and it's got a high ACOS. So 73 cents cost per click, which is what it was averaging. I bumped it down to 62 cents. I probably should just, bump it way down because in order to get a 73 cents per click, which brought it to 85%, we'd probably have to cut that in half in order to make it worthwhile. So if I did say 36 cents, maybe if we got any impressions at that, we could come in with a decent ACOS. Here's something that you can decide to do. As I'm managing this also, I could play with this and say, oh, I'll adjust it down and see if we can't make this profitable. But on the other side, if I want to be more aggressive and say, look, this isn't converting, so I'm done. I don't want to mess around paying any money for something that is not converting when we have so many that are. So I could come and look at this one, 60% ACOS, and say 10 cents, save that. So I don't know what's going on with my computer here, why it's not saving the 10 cents. I'm just going to turn them off. So normally it does save it and it doesn't have any trouble. For some reason lately, there's some weird thing happening on this screen with Amazon. So I'll turn them off. I don't need that high when we've got these kind of things performing. So we can leave these turning. These ASINs are performing well, so we don't need to worry about the others. And remember, turn off the bleeding, which we just did. Now look for the orders and make sure that all the ones that have orders have room to grow. If they're, this one here is 60% and then we got an 85%. These are the ones we turned off. All the others look good. Yep. And we've got some room. So if this was 53 cents cost per click, and this was, 53 cents, and it was a decent ACOS, we might as well bump it up, give it a little bit more room. So this looks good. Impressions. Lastly, going and taking a look. There are some that have no impressions in this 30-day period. So what I might do is just go and say, let's see lifetime. Are there any that have no impressions in this lifetime? And I can say, yep, let's get these. Let's see if any of these are going to convert because they haven't done anything. So I've got enough of a budget leeway to be able to get some extra things here converting. So I'll go up to 94 cents on these. So I clicked the ones I wanted. I adjust bid. I go to 94 cents and save. Same thing, search terms. Here are the product targets. Children's Christmas holiday books. This is categories. So these people are searching for terms, and yet our category target captured them. So we also have ASINs here. Somebody searched for Christmas stories for kids 3 to 5, and we targeted this ASIN and it grabbed it. And we still got these great ACOS. So what I can do here is take all of the ones that are performing really well so that I can, maybe I don't want to make changes to this ad. I can't, really make any changes here. But what I can do is I can see all of these keyword terms that have really low ACOSs, and I can go back to the keyword ad that we were just in, and I can copy these terms and paste them in just to make sure I'm not losing the lessons learned on this ad, because we want to see what can we learn from what's here, what's converting well, easy to read Christmas books, funny teenager Christmas books, kid Christmas storybook collection. Some of these are interesting and different, especially the ones that have multiple clicks on a specific search term. Sometimes you catch something, if it's more than just a fluke with one person searching for it, then we probably should be targeting for it. And I don't have any automatic ads here for the video ads. That's a slightly different type of ad. It's the same basic thing. You'll have just a few, like you have 4 lines in an automatic ad, and you'll just target, you go through and adjust on exactly the same things we just did here. So I hope that this helps. I want to show you a couple things that I promised. In the far right over here, where this little circle is, where you've got your profile picture, you've got communication settings. This is where you go to take your text and ask them to send you text notifications, campaign ending notifications. Make sure that's turned on. You will have to add your phone number, and you can turn it on here so that you get notifications when your campaigns are getting low or that there's a problem that needs to be resolved. So that's one. Also, on the far left, you'll see a little icon here for reporting. This is where you're going to go to set up those reports that I mentioned. And you can see all of these are reports that once the report is run, you have access to this data moving forward. So you can come in here and create the report. Here's the sponsored product, sponsored brand, whatever report you're doing. I do like to run brand ads, but each one of the types of ads that you're running, you should have a report. And it's going to show, I want to see the search term, but you could, if you wanted to get into anything else, you can check out the different types of reports. I want a summary and I want the last 30-day period. You can enter email addresses so that you can actually be notified when the report runs. And you can schedule it to be a recurring report, so you never forget and lose your data. So you can do a recurring report that's going to be delivered to your email on a monthly basis, which is what I do. And I usually schedule that the second week of the month for the previous month. And then I do the schedule, click schedule, and then it's going to give you the ability to look back on these reports. So once the report runs, you get this download and you're able to open up the report and see the types of information that's in the report, which includes your ACOS, how many clicks, how many, what search terms were there, all of the things we looked at in the search term when we went into searches, what the customer searched for, what you targeted, and how it performed. You have all of that in your report. If you'd like to participate in future sessions like this, then you should take a look at joining my mastermind group. It is $17.99 a month, and you get a ton of benefit from that, with twice monthly sessions, work groups, free access to all of the meetings and activities that I conduct. So if you're interested, I'll put a link below in the description. I hope you'll join us in the live sessions.